Okay, starting the Puppet PR triage for January 26th. And it looks like Michael has some notes up from last time.
Oh, where are we? There are, I believe, 2 new tickets to Puppet. One was, I think I put them down at some of them down at the end here. Oh, this showed up twice. Where are we on that? So one of the new ones was just detecting malformed metadata dependencies. I saw someone pinged some people handling the module tool. So I think that, I don't know that there's a whole lot to say on that one. PR 4590.
Yep.
Yeah, Kyla pinged him. It looks, I haven't dug into what it means, but I'm happy to let them do that.
Yep.
The other, I don't remember exactly which the other PR was. Oh, I think Dallon's protect shared state with a file system lock, PR 4584. I had a number of comments on that. This was a PR that we merged and then realized that, and then it showed up breaking one of the acceptance tests because you couldn't run Puppet apply back to back. So let me bring up that on my screen in a second.
Did it not unlock after the first run?
Not quickly. I had to start introducing about a quarter-second delay before running again.
Huh. That seems like a Puppet bug. Like we could get that same behavior now. Well, if you had like 2 agent runs and then you ran
Right.
those in.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I was going to go back and check agent, and I didn't. I haven't yet. But it does seem like it could happen in an agent run. I'm not sure exactly what the bug is. I think it does a unlink on the file and then exits. And I think the unlink is just an asynchronous action on, like the unlink is going to wait until the process has exited. And then there seems to be a slight delay that is a race condition between the OS releasing holds on the file and the new process starting and trying to get access to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So apply, it seemed more likely, well, we were doing it in acceptance tests, so what was the issue? I think I've raised a couple of testing things I wanted to see covered.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, because the problem first showed up, a couple things happened. The problem showed up because the error that was being thrown referred to variables that weren't exposed here.
Right.
And so that was the first thing that needed to be fixed, and I wanted acceptance tests to cover the error conditions, and then I realized once that error message is fixed, the acceptance test will actually pass because Puppet was not exiting correctly. So we had to add exit 1 when it gets a lock error.
Right.
That's essentially what the agent would do. It just had a slightly different code path to get to the exit. And without it, the apply just kind of returns nil, and that's interpreted as success, and the apply exits with exit 0. So after adding that, the acceptance test fails again, and you actually see that it's that the second it's trying to do 2 applies in a row, and the second one is not running correctly.
Okay.
So I think this PR is mostly good, except that acceptance test is still a problem.
Okay. I had one note on the acceptance or the spec test also. If you go back to files, I'll leave a note on it, but just
Okay.
the one that's testing exit code 1, we
Yeah.
actually have a helper that,
Oh.
that there's a way to set an expectation that it exits with a particular exit code.
Mm.
Um,
That would be nice to simplify. I wasn't quite sure how to do this.
yeah, there's some magic. Yeah, you can say expect um, pass a block to exit with 0, to exit with 1.
Oh, okay.
There's some examples in spec integration, application apply. But yeah, that makes sense. I hate how, so when we included that code, um, there's this implicit, we're relying on a variable also being available in the module that does the including.
Sorry, where?
So you were saying before, like we were trying to issue this warning, this notice,
Oh, yeah.
and it was relying on the code that this was pulled from, had this dependency on this variable. So now lock file path, is that defined in the apply application, or is it
Lock.
mixed into locker?
It's mixed into Locker.
Okay.
It was another variable that's been replaced with Puppet that would get passed into the agent run, and it was always Puppet : configurer.
Okay. Okay. So more.
And I left comments that I think we probably should add a default wait period on starting if this is going to be an issue. I don't know. Otherwise, we can modify the acceptance test that did fail to have a wait in it, but that means other people might run into it.
Hey, Rob, just noticed you joined.
Yeah, for some reason Google Hangouts doesn't work in Firefox anymore. I get no audio.
Oh, yeah.
Good thing the browser's a commodity now.
Right. Cool. So yeah, Michael, is there? So it sounds like we're good on this one. Like,
I think so.
dig in some more.
Rob, have you dealt with, do you? I don't know. This is kind of a neat thing to lock, so you can't run Puppet Apply at the same time, but it also means you can't really run Puppet Apply back to back in a script because there's a period between when the lock file is unlinked and when it actually disappears. And I suspect that would be a problem for some people, and it's a problem in our acceptance tests. I was wondering if that's something you ever run into.
Running 2 applies in a row?
Yeah.
No, I've not actually done that. And it says what, 200? Yeah, so the best I've done is maybe hitting the up arrow and hit enter, but that's going to take at least that long.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how much it would actually be in practice, but it was surprising enough. I'm not sure I want to just merge it in.
Yeah, especially that this is showing up in like our CI is telling us something, right?
Yeah.
Sure, we're not the only ones to run Puppet Apply in an automated way. Okay, so what's next up? Yeah, actually, Rob, did you have anything you wanted to cover in particular?
Well, I finally think I'm almost at a point where I can do the acceptance test in 184, Hyro 184. I was trying to get that done before this call, but I kind of ran out of time because I've been building new infrastructure.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm trying to do it. I got jammed on bundle because I didn't have the GCC C++ stuff installed yet.
Oh, and Beaker probably has a dependency on something.
Everything seems to. UNF_EXT. I don't even know what that gem is, but apparently it requires it. But my goal was to try
Unicode, fun. Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be cool once it's once you can run it. The only other things I had was there's still a couple tickets that we have some review on. I added a few more notes to this first one, PUP 4760, taking a look at how people might try to actually use a resource. And I think most of our concerns there are probably not going to be a problem. If you try to query the state of a resource, you probably want to pass in actual properties that you want to retrieve. And if you care about ensure, you should pass it in ensure. At least when I look at what the Puppet resource command is doing, I it seems kind of straightforward and like a pattern people would probably copy if they wanted to access the resource.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm too concerned about breaking people. Or I don't think I'm too worried about potentially breaking someone trying to get the ensure status of a service.
Okay. So maybe that's something we target for master. Which
Yeah.
we do. Okay.
What was it? I forget if this one was targeted at 3x or master. It's targeted at 3x. I'd be more comfortable with it at master. I think I might have mentioned that I think it shouldn't go into a bug fix release.
Yeah.
Especially because it's marked improvement.
Yep. Okay.
And we're not really doing feature fixes on 3x.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, he did actually in the ticket asked about targeting 3x or master, so I'll add a note. Okay. The second one was the keep alive on the TCP, and I think I made a note on the ticket to actually try and review it or pull it into a sprint soon.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks good. I was a little surprised that it was so difficult to get access to socket options through the net HTTP interface, basically. But
Yeah.
he's kind of like, I'm surprised that that's so hard, because I would think enabling keep alive is a pretty common thing that people want to do with persistent HTTP connections. But yeah.
And the bug got merged in. This was going into master, so it should be a new. Okay. We should be keeping it up to date with Ruby fixes.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't looked at this before. Okay. All right, so there was a Ruby fix that was merged in. Do we think this one's ready or has something blocking it still?
I think it's ready 4508, because I think he, sorry. The Ruby bug 11958 looks like they backported to all versions of Ruby.
2.0 and on.
So I think that we're at 2.18 now for Puppet Agent.
Yeah.
And so I imagine the next release, 2.19, would contain that.
Or 2.18 patch.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to check if our version of that is good, or it was reported on 2.17p400, but only fixed 9 days ago.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for a good version of Ruby to be released and verify that it works on Windows.
Well, the bug that he ran into is only executed in the spec test. It's not in the actual code itself.
Okay.
It's how socket options get reported on Windows. So he's like trying to enable it and then trying to verify that it's set on the socket. And that latter part behaves strangely in Windows.
Okay. Oh, the workaround can be removed once Ruby versions are patched.
Yeah. So
We'll see.
I'd be fine merging it now and dealing with the Ruby bump later.
Okay. We want to go ahead and just do that?
Yeah. Why don't we put this? I'll actually pull this into our next sprint for sprint planning tomorrow.
Okay. Rather than waiting forever. That's good. All right. I merged a 3.x backport for, what was it, exec reload and systemd maybe? Was just waiting on release to go out. Yeah. Backporting exec reload to systemd for systemd.
Oh,
So
right.
that one's good. I had some other comments on, let's see, as far as the status on the rest of these. I'm not sure we need to do anything about the first PR4450.
Which one is that?
Oh, this was...
Yeah.
a bug fix read through in that handles booleans for yum repo correctly. Now refers to pub 5682.
Yeah, there was an existing bug that had been filed on this. Yeah. So one thing in the if you bring up the PR,
Yeah.
4450. Oh, sorry, is that hard to switch? Okay.
Not too hard.
One thing I don't understand is if you look at the file diff, there's a change to yum repo spec where does that mean that previously we accepted YES, like capitalized that way, and now we don't? Or
I would guess so.
because that seems like
I'm not sure it worked. Like this wouldn't have actually run yum against it. What was this? 5682.
because it seems like previously it would have accepted that value, and now we won't,
Yeah.
which seems surprising.
That previously we would have accepted it, or that it changed?
Well, just that it changed because it's more than um, hmm. All right. I guess that's fine.
Trying to find any description of the Yum repo format.
Yeah, and I'm just hesitant about changing anything where it's like a behavior change, and we introduce this in a, patch release. It's like
Yeah.
Puppet used to accept this syntax, and now it doesn't, and you know,
Hmm.
so it's like trying to do the right thing, except sometimes there's behaviors that have been around for so long that, um, yeah. Anyways, that seems fine.
So would it, if it equals absent, otherwise it'll capitalize.
Hmm.
This is hard coding should value, so it may be that. Hmm. Yeah, I guess it will do error checking of some sort. Uh, I'm curious about one thing. What does to capitalize do to that? So I don't think it's an issue that people will see. I think it's just a spec or will care about.
Hmm.
What happens when you capitalize uppercase Y, lowercase e, uppercase s? Is it lowercase is the s? And so I think that just broke checking that what you pass in is what gets set as a property. I
Okay.
think that will still be accepted as in a manifest, which is kind of crazy.
Okay. And we didn't change the documentation of like yum boolean doc in that string inline. So that's good. That
Yeah.
valid values are false or no. So that's good. All right.
Hmm.
So this seems pretty good. Maybe put this in the triage sprint. And
Yeah.
all right, I can do that if after.
Sure.
Uh,
Um, and okay. Extreme close problem with SSH transport. Joe is going to push new code. I guess I'll give that a check whether it's been updated. Um, he pushed code, but without leaving me a comment. So of course Brandon didn't. There was no notification. Uh, okay, I think Brandon can keep working on that one.
okay.
Okay. Formatting. I think this is trying to get some assistance looking at a Cisco device or Cisco change for Puppet.
Which one is this?
Pup 5616. I think, yeah. All right, I sent another ping to Stan. Yep.
Mhm. Okay.
That a type could not be found. Um, Lots of back and forth. Last things was suggesting to put it behind a feature flag. So that's still not really. Yeah, that one is still waiting.
What's the number on that one? Oh, sorry.
40 pull request 4427. I'll bring up a window again. Okay, I forgot I was not sharing anything. Okay, so pull 4427 was flagging a type could not be found so that we don't try to search for it every time. And it was suggested this should be behind a feature flag.
Yeah. This is kind of, I think this whole thing is worthy of a Puppet dev thread. It's Puppet code, we have various caches in, in Puppet and Ruby code. And so we consistently invalidate those caches because the agent has certain requirements. But that means that the Puppet master pays that expense even though it doesn't make any sense to, like, it pays that expense unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And so that basically having a mechanism to say, no, really, we're running in the master, don't clear caches unnecessarily. And this is just one example. We have a couple different ones.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's one feature flag to disable all the things or different settings for each of the different caches that can be invalidated or not. But I imagine that we would see some, like this is a great example. I'm sure that we would see additional performance benefits if we didn't clear the caches, the other caches as well, when running Puppet Master.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd made a note that we should talk about caching things in Puppet sometime soon.
Yep.
That was maybe next week. We'll get to that. Yeah. Okay. Well, this isn't really going anywhere at the moment.
Yep.
Rubicup by default. Oh, needs a rebase, so that's sitting until someone gets back to it.
Okay.
And Alex responded for Anderson, so that's fine. Shoot, I shouldn't have closed that. Sorting FTab entries. I think this is still waiting on Felix to do an update because I pinged him on what I thought was a bug in it a while ago.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Last thing was that I think there's a mistake that needs to be fixed. So nothing new there. The padding a seed in FQDN Rand, I think, has been going back and forth. And the question is, should we... This seems like a good idea to make the hashing more evenly, or more random. Assuming people just use the default behavior and expect it to be decent.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because it's deterministically random in the sense that it's the same host always gets the same slot. But we want better distribution so that we're using all the slots.
Yeah.
But I agree, like changing the semantics, well, changing this in a patch release seems bad. I agree with what Henrik was saying there.
But do we want to consider fixing it in one of the upcoming minor releases, or is it big enough that we leave it for major release? Is that something we should ping Eric on?
Probably. Sorry, I just noticed Kylo's commit about removing dead code, which I didn't
Oh.
realize that was.
Where? I think there's some dead code. Oh.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's entertaining. So, what was... Oh, this is just using deterministic randint. Okay. That's pretty unrelated. All right. And remove support for Ruby 193 seems pretty... Wait, have we dropped 193 on the master branch? Oh, that's less than 193. Are we still checking all of those? And is the code executed on a spec test?
Yeah, good question.
Don't have anything that called it directly.
And Travis, we're only checking 193 as the earliest version in Travis digaml.
Yeah, I do think we have some things that call FQD and RAND, so we're probably okay there. Yes. Okay, I think that's safe to merge.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so I pinged Eric on that one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. This one is the one I tried to jump to early. The check puppet. So you mentioned you were confused why this didn't seem like it matched the error reporting, and that's because the error was reported against 3.x, where this wasn't fixed. It was fixed in a commit in 2014 on 4.0. So yeah, I think we need to backport that fix, but that needs to be targeted at 3.x. Let me make sure I've... all right, we'll see if Haley gets to it.
Okay.
Should just take a minute, or I'll go ahead and do it right now. Okay.
You want to ask the contributor to submit a, submit a PR to backport that?
They weren't really responsive in the first place, which is why Haley took it on.
Okay.
And she did that during Puppet Hack. So I'm just going to go ahead and cherry pick it down and put up a new PR.
Okay. Cool.
Um, oh, right, that's funny. It was originally pup 2909. And fixed version, we'll see. Okay, that's updated. Yeah, we already looked at the shared file system lock. Not a lot to say on metadata dependencies. Blocked is still adding timing metrics, deep password support. I guess that was in there twice. There we go. Oh, how did I do back so much? There we go. Right, factor 1289. We didn't. There's more work to do there, so we don't want to merge the pull request as it is, and no one's made time to do it, and the contributor hasn't done anything. Hyra, we just talked about that earlier. That leaves feature autorelation defined types. Oh yeah, we want to have autorelations for defined types. So where was this at? This may be stalled on how to do it correctly. I think the last comment was Brandon was going to spend some time trying to do it right. So we've put it in triage. We will see when we get some time to work on it.
Okay. Yeah, this might be good to ping Eric also. So he's
okay.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah. What was this left at? This was answering some questions about resources, and I think Brandon was volunteering since he's been working on resource dependencies and autorelations and all that. Yeah, I think that one's fine. I think we've gone through everything. Anything else, or should we call it a day?
Rob, did you have anything?
Yeah, so I did get Docker working in the meantime.
Oh, cool.
I had an issue. Let me see if I can share my screen.
I can host Docker.
All right. Is that hopefully legible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I had an issue with CentOS. CentOS it tries to run service SSHD, which doesn't work. So I didn't know if you had actually tried it with CentOS or just created a Docker or a
Mm.
YAML file for it. So I switched over to Ubuntu,
Okay.
and it booted. And I think you said this is what I should see.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. The other red that shows up here, I haven't used
Oh yeah,
Docker or
just
Beaker
reading
yet,
this.
so I just want to make sure that this red that's down here at the bottom, this obviously looks like it's what we would expect for a failure.
Yep.
And then, is that normal or at least not abnormal?
I honestly don't think I know that I've ever run Beaker with Docker.
Okay.
I put it up as a suggestion, but the one I ended up using was Vagrant. So I don't know. Most Docker containers don't have services enabled. I'm not quite sure what that is saying.
It seems like it completed, but I just...
Yeah, it's trying to set. So it looks like it maybe is expecting an SSH, or it's trying to set up SSHD in the Docker container, and maybe that container didn't support it.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing Beaker will, it adds Puppet's, off Puppet Labs bin to your SSH user environment, and then it will try to change the SSHD config to permit user environment because that's usually disabled by default, and then it'll try to restart SSHD. So it might be something in the host pre-built steps in Beaker and how it's interacting with Docker.
Maybe a timing issue too, as it's trying to spin up, and it might be connecting while it's trying to restart it. Because it seemed like it picked up after. Okay, so it doesn't seem like a big showstopper then. So then the question.
Did you have? Oh, so were you were you trying to set up two machines?
No, I tried.
Okay.
I tried the CentOS and it failed, and then I just switched over to Ubuntu because I don't really care about that.
That may have just been a message waiting for a service to start up.
Okay.
And then it connected and it was good.
Okay. Yeah. So at least I've got it this far. Do you have ideas of where it should go from here? I think Ari had some suggestions, but they were a little above my head when he mentioned them. I haven't gone back and dived into it deeper.
Well, what I was trying to do was codify the example that you had that showed this bug into an acceptance test. So I think this acceptance test is just reproducing your test case. Where to go with it? I haven't really looked closely at why it might not be working.
But this test is running against a released version of Hyra, or is this Hyra with your fix in it?
It's Hyra with my fix in it, and let me see if I can share out the other screen. So this is what Ari said was that it had something to do with this include here. His statement is it's failing because it checks if it's included in the hash, which our tweak doesn't address.
Okay. What are we at? Oh, so you made a change in bin Hyra.
Yeah, so that's...
Yeah, if you're saying the key... Oh, so it's doing another include check that might not try to fix up the lookup pattern. That was... What was that in? That was... I guess I have the comment here. So value.include is checking segment. Segment will match well, what is segment? Segment is not a number. So I think I suspect what he's saying is that this check at line 311, where it does include segment, should be doing the same like the same string munging that you're doing in bin/Hira.
Okay, so it needs to basically include segment or the vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Segment, it should check if segment is namespace or if is prepended with double colons, and if it's not, try that. That I think is a suggestion. I'm not sure I know the implications of that.
Okay, so if I basically in
Probably
this.
have to get Henrik or Thomas to take a look at it if you get it working.
Okay, but yeah, so basically between 310 and 311, do some if checks and only throw if it doesn't match segment or a segment with a prepend and a segment without. However, I get there.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I can
Yeah,
figure that out.
Okay.
So it'd be like throw no such key unless value includes segment or value include : segment.
And well, whichever one it is, you'll want to end up. I think you'll want to end up updating the segment variable to be whichever is found, because immediately afterwards it's going to try and get it out of the value array or the value hash.
Okay.
So you probably want to say something like, if segment doesn't start with : then segment equals : segment.
Okay.
So something like the other key replacement that you're doing in bin/Hira, but actually update the segment variable or create a new variable.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of what we're doing here is we're just creating that hash key. All right. All right, I'll find a way. At least now I know what I need to do to test it and hopefully have something working come out the other end.
So that means this is updating. This is saying scope lookup should create the other hash key. And the piece we're looking at here is probably looking at a segment in a different way. Yeah, I guess so. Huh.
I'm guessing it maybe hits this part before it gets to the other side?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Maybe find out where this is used.
Oh.
I don't want issues.
I don't know. I would take a look at what, like, I would probably add some debugging at in the default proc to see if it's called, and if so, what the hash looks like, and then also look at the segment, see if I'm not exactly sure. I'm not quite sure what that default proc is doing.
So the default proc, my understanding, and I kind of already helped me with this one, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think what he's doing here is basically monkey patching hash lookups, so that every time you do a hash lookup, it automatically checks to see if it doesn't begin with a : it'll create a key with a : if it does begin with : it'll create a key without.
Oh, right. So it looks like because it's calling include first, default proc isn't called. And I don't know how to override that, or even if we should. It looks like that monkey patching just isn't working here because include is called first and doesn't use that proc. That makes sense.
So we're getting to this part and hitting it before the hash itself is modified.
I suspect line 313 is where it would call that default proc, but you're checking to see whether it is included in the hash first, and that I assume doesn't use the default proc, and so the lookup doesn't update it.
Okay, yeah, because we're actually changing it on this specific hash, not as like the general hash lookup.
Correct.
Correct.
Possibly that too. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, because we're changing it on the option scope that gets passed into higher lookup, but if anything before it gets there, or even after, no, before it gets there, if default proc isn't changed, when it does the lookup, it's not going to find the other key. Okay.
Hmm.
I think I'll go through and look at the ordering of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I basically did the same thing up at the top here with value before I even got into this, it would do the lookup the right way in
That
both
might do it too.
places.
Um,
Yeah. I'll give that a shot and we'll
oh yeah,
see what
value.
happens.
So lookup, yeah, I don't know what ends up getting past a qualified lookup.
Yeah, but I think if it's failing right here, then I think changing it on value is good because value gets thrown away well, value gets passed up at the end, but that'll save it when it gets looked up here. Then the question is if it's getting looked up in 20 different places, we can't do that in 20 places, but
Right.
okay, I'll try that and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for your patience and helping get set up with
Scope.
Beaker and stuff too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I kind of follow it. So I think it's in the back end, line 273. Like, so if you have higher open, scroll up a bit. A little further, that whole method is the lookup method. And so the scope that has the default proc overridden is that scope argument. And if you scroll down to not that
Right
far, yeah,
here.
the lookups. Most of the lookups use scope, but this qualified lookup doesn't. It uses whatever value is,
Okay.
which looks like it may not be that original scope hash.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. So yeah, and because it throws it here into a new hash, it's not going to get the modified lookup.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that actually creates a new hash. I think it just refers to the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to explicitly copy a hash in Ruby.
Okay.
But whatever lookup return, I think it does a recursive lookup call, and lookup can probably return something that wasn't the original scope hash. So you end up with value as some new hash that doesn't have it overridden.
Okay, yeah, because we transform it basically here. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I think that looks like a good avenue to go down.
Awesome. Well, I will try and get something working, and then
Cool.
we can hand it over to Henrik after that.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's wrap it up.
That's a wrap. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Later.